Hello, this is Bradley. So I saw a tweet from Blender Sushi guy mentioning whatever, and I thought it might be interesting and useful to make a procedural book using nodes. So I quickly used Sorcar to model that. What you're watching right now is the demonstration. I actually wonder if you actually need a tutorial beyond the demonstration, because there are only that many nodes and you basically get everything. But I'm making a tutorial anyway. By the way, here's the thing. Sokka is a very unstable add-on. I presented it for fun and proposed people for more engagement to support and develop it and so on. But I currently do not recommend you to use that for a very serious project. Anyway, let's start. So in my last and also the first tutorial of Sokka, in which I made a Sokka ball, I mentioned that the way to work with Sokka is very intuitive. It's basically you're just repeating what you do with the traditional modeling by using nodes. And if I'm going to model a book with the traditional modeling, just a very simple book, then I'll probably just scale the cubes, loop cut in the middle, bevel that, and I'm going to select the 3 faces and hit the T and extrude along normals. And then we got a book, and definitely we can improve that essentially, but this is the concept, which is very simple. So we're going to do this with Sokka. So obviously you can see if we want to do everything procedurally, then you should be allowed to change the thickness of the book and the other things as you have seen in the demonstration. So anyway, let's start. So we start with a cube. And set a preview, we can preview a cube. Next thing is I'm going to use transform and set a preview. So here is the tricky part, is I'm going to turn that to edit modes. If you don't turn that edit modes, whatever you transform will be actually subjected. So I'm also changing the mode to scale. Whatever you do will be subjected to the actual transform, and if you bevel that later, it will make things very crappy. For example, if I'm creating a cube, and if I'm putting a wireframe and increase the thickness, now it looks kind of very normal. But if I'm going to scale it on x-axis, you can see because the transform data has been changed very much, so the modifier also runs to be very weird. So remember to use edit mode if you're doing so, and scale it down, it's fine. Next thing is I'm going to add a loop cut. I'm going to set a preview. So now it's in the wrong direction, and you can use edge index to set a correct index. So sometimes maybe you are not sure with which index you're working with. A very easy way is just goes to the overlay mode and set edge, and you can see the basically, so now everything has been already cut. But if you didn't cut that, then 4, 5, 10, 11 are the edges that you can potentially cut with. So this is the idea. Next thing is I'm going to bevel that. And set it on offset. So here's the part of which you can change the thickness of the book. And then I'm going to add another loop cut. And I'm also again going to change the index and set the factors. Okay. Then next thing, here's the part which can be very tricky, is the selection. In Sorcar, there's a lot of selections. Actually, I think it's even more than what you can do with all these selection. I think it's also the part which will differ a lot, but I think essentially the most intuitive way is just to select manually. And by setting the select, remember, goes to M panel and change the select type into faces. I'm going to select the 3 faces that I'm going to extrude, and I'm going to save the selection. This is very handy because this save selection will really save the selection. I think the way it actually works is according to the index of faces. This is my theory, but I don't know. Then I'm just going to extrude the region. I actually don't really know about this node, but the thing I don't actually understand is why I have 3 values instead of 1. But you just change one value and it just get everything. And here's the thing: you're in edit mode, and you just extruded the faces. All right, so you're actively selecting these 3 faces right at this moment. So I'm going to add a material. But we don't have a material to add with, except the one with animation node. But I'm going to create 2 materials. One just called the pages, and the other is called cover. I'm just temporarily make it kind of dark yellow color, like kind of old book. You can work with the texture for more things. The whole thing is, if you're updating the tree for whatever reason, then all this material will disappear. So you have to do modifier material anything with Sorcar nodes only. So if there is some function that cannot be achieved with Sorcar nodes, then the object you created is just dead. So we set that to pages. Okay. Set the previews. So now we only have 1 materials on this object. But we're going to, I think we already almost finished this. So let's select all. Sokka node does not have a select invert. So like if I type just invert, it does not work. So you have to use select all to do the invert function. I never understand why, but this is how it works. And I'm going to duplicate the materials, put it in cover. So now we have 2 materials being added. So this is basically done. Let's turn off the overlay. So next thing is whether we actually bevel that. There are 2 options of bevel. One is bevel and the other is bevel modifier. As you know, the bevel is, if you go to the edit mode and hit T, then you get a bevel options. So the difference is the bevel option is not a procedural and the bevel modifier is procedural. However, here's the interesting part, because you're using nodes to do these functions. So the bevel actually tends to be procedural as well. So what's the difference between the bevel and the bevel modifier? If they're both procedural in Sorcar nodes, here's the difference. If we're using this bevel node within this edit mode, it will only be subjected to the edges that you selected. So this is the difference. But if you use a modifier, then it does not care which edges or which vertices you're beveling with. It will basically subject it to everything. So anyway, I'm just going to make bevel everything, which make my life easier. And you increase the segments, and this is basically done. You can change all these values, like how much extrusion, the thickness of the book, as you have seen from the demonstration. So I think basically this is it. Oh, by the way, while doing this project, there are several things I realized is if you add multiple reroutes. So you can add 1 reroute, but if you add 2 reroutes, it will cause bugs. I'm not going to show you, but you can try by yourself. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and I'll probably see you next time. Bye bye.